Hey guys, my character Shinigami here again today, giving you another top 10 list. And today I decided that since I believe there's going to be at least one big reveal at E3 for Hyrule Warriors, that I was going to make two lists about Hyrule Warriors. My first video, which is this one, is going to be about my top 10 locations that I would like to see in Hyrule Warriors. And my second one will be about the top 10 characters I want to see in Hyrule Warriors. There were a few other locations. I had about 20 more that I was thinking could be cool for the game, but these are going to be the top 10 locations that I most want to see. I'm going to start off with locations that I feel are more likely, because this is more like a wish list in a way. So the ones that I feel are less likely will be through 1 through 7, I would say. So let's go ahead and get into the list. Alright, for my number 10 spot, I had a bit of a toss-up between either Death Mountain with Goron City or Lake Hylia with Zora's Domain, and I wound out going with Lake Hylia with Zora's Domain, mainly because I am a big fan of Zoras and water, so that's the biggest reason I put this on here. I also thought that Zora's Domain is more of a beautiful location, and I would prefer to see more of this lake setting, a slightly bit more than I would Death Mountain and Goron City. But either way, Death Mountain and Goron City would easily make my number 11 spot. My number 9 spot is going to go to the Temple of Time. And when I talk about the Temple of Time, I mean a bit of a mixture between Ocarina of Time's Temple of Time and Twilight Princess's Temple of Time. I know a lot of people really didn't like Twilight Princess's Temple of Time as a dungeon, which I can get. It was pretty straightforward. But I do think that as the Temple of Time itself, it's still a very beautiful location, and I think it would work much better in the Hyrule Warriors game, because Hyrule Warriors does seem like it will be pretty straightforward since it is made in the Dynasty Warriors style. So I think this would be a good location for the Hyrule Warriors game, and I also think that it is actually likely to be in there because, the Temple of Time is a pretty big location in the series. So yeah, basically it would be cool to see like the pedestal with the spiritual stones mixed together with the room for the Master Sword, mixed together with some of the things from Twilight Princess, and put them all together into one location. So I think that number 9, Temple of Time, a mixture of Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, would be a good idea for one of the locations. Alright, my number 8 location is going to go to Ganondorfs Tower from the Ocarina of Time. Now, I imagine that most people who are going to be playing this game have played Ocarina of Time, considering it's the most legendary game in the Zelda series. And I think that's pretty much a fact, because anytime you talk to someone about Zelda, Ocarina of Time is going to be one of the first games that come up. Nobody doesn't know this game. And I know that's a double negative, but really that's the truth. The reason I'm saying Ganondorf's Tower, specifically from Ocarina of Time, is because this was one of the most epic final dungeons in the entire series. Another thing I would have thought about was maybe the moon from Majora's Mask, but I thought Ganondorf's Tower would be easier to put into a game, and I also think it's just really freaking cool. This could be a really nice location to unlock Ganondorf, for instance, and overall, I just think Ganondorf's Tower, maybe having that music in the background where the closer you get to Ganondorf, the louder the organ music gets. Kind of like an Ocarina of Time. That would be pretty cool. But either way, I would like to see Ganondorf's Tower from Ocarina of Time in the game, and that's why I put it at number 8. My number 7 spot is going to go to the Lenaeru mining facility from Skyward Sword. And specifically, I'm going to go with the Lenaeru mining facility just because of the way it looks, pretty much. It had a sort of this futuristic and old style feel to it, so I think that could be pretty cool of a mixture together. I'm not really sure if you would unlock anyone in this area, though I just think the area itself would be pretty cool. It's a very lovely location, I would say, and I think it's a lot of people would agree with me when I say that it's one of my favorite locations in Skyward Sword. One of my favorite dungeons. There was another one on here that I from Skyward Sword that I didn't include on the list, which was the sand ship. But it's mainly because I had other sand locations in here, and I thought that having an extra sand location might be a bit of a stretch. But sand ship is still another one that I would be interested in. But for my number 7 spot, I have to go with Lenaeru Mining Facility, just because of the way it looks and the way I think it would be really cool to play in. My number 6 spot is going to go to the Great Bay Temple from Majora's Mask. And this is going to be my only location for Majora's Mask, despite Majora's Mask being my favorite game in the entire series, just because I preferred the atmosphere of Majora's Mask more than the locations or anything like that. Um, what I think is just cool about this location is that it's a water dungeon, and I think it's got a cooler design than other water dungeons that I feel would look better in the Dynasty Warrior style. I know you have like the Water Temple and Lakebed Temple from Twilight Princess would also be cool, but something about seeing Great Bay Temple in a more Dynasty Warriors type of setting just seems really neat to me. Um, the only other location I'd really consider putting on here, aside from the moon that I mentioned earlier, was this very popular Stone Tower Temple. And the main reason I wanted to point that out is because I know a lot of people love the Stone Tower Temple. It makes people's number one temple in the entire series very often. But something for me is that I just felt that I would like to see at least one water temple kind of dungeon turned into a Dynasty Warriors location. And for me, the one that came to mind was the Great Bay Temple. My number 5 spot is going to go to my second favorite dungeon in Twilight Princess, which is the Arbiter's Grounds. And the reason I'm going to point this one out is because for a sand style dungeon, this is probably my favorite in the entire series, and I thought that we needed at least one of these sand style dungeons somewhere in the game. It's got this really creepy atmosphere, which was really cool, and you know, as I said, there's sand. It's a tomb crypt type of area. It was the location of my favorite item in Twilight Princess, the spinner, even though we didn't really get to use it very much. And I don't really think the spinner should be in this game or anything, but I really love Arbiter's Ground for the overall atmosphere, the creepiness of the crypt, and the sand itself. So for that reason, I'm going to put Arbiter's Grounds at my number 5 location. My number 4 spot is going to go to my second favorite temple in the entire Legend of Zelda series, which is the Ancient Cistern from Skyward Sword. I have a couple other temples above this one, but I just thought they would fit better as a Dynasty Warriors stage than Ancient Cistern. But I couldn't leave Ancient Cistern off this list because I love the location so much. This is a half water, half shadow temple type of thing. I know I already have a water temple on here, but this one just adds a little bit more with the zombie boblicans, and you know, just the creepy atmosphere, and it's a complimentary type of stage. You have the cistern water area on top, and then you have the creepy underground zombie darkness area on the bottom. And I think mixing these two locations together into one big Dynasty Warrior stage would just be a really neat idea. And I want to play on it, obviously, since it's my number 4. So yes, that's going to go to the Ancient Cistern. My number 3 spot is going to go to the Forest Temple from the Ocarina of Time. And the reason I'm including this one on this list is because who doesn't love the Forest Temple from the Ocarina of Time? This temple was just freaking amazing. My favorite foresty temple ever, easily. And it's got that creepy atmosphere, which I've mentioned a few times before already in just my last 2 before this. So as you can see, I like those creepy atmospheres. But it's also just a really lovely location, which is something else I've mentioned before. You got that creepiness and that loveliness mixed together as one. And I could also see maybe unlocking Phantom Ganon as a playable character from this location. And that would be pretty freaking cool, if I do say so myself. But I just think they could do some cool things with this location. I think it fits perfectly as a Dynasty Warrior stage, and I really would love to just see this in more of an advanced graphic setting. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and say Forest Temple from Ocarina of Time as my number 3 location. My number 2 location is going to go to an area that's not really a dungeon or a temple, but later on becomes sort of a dungeon temple area. And that is the entire Dragon Roost Island from the Wind Waker. The reason I want to see Dragon Roost Island from the Wind Waker is because I love Dragon Roost Island from the Wind Waker. It had my favorite soundtrack playing in the background for the entire series, and I would be kind of interested to see what they could do with that soundtrack, though I'm also a little bit worried about putting it in there just because I love that music so much. The big reason I wanted to include this in here, though, is just because it was my favorite location in the Wind Waker, despite not really being a temple or anything like that. Something else that I didn't actually include on here, but I think it will also be a very awesome location, was the Forsaken Fortress from Wind Waker. So I didn't include that on my top 10, but it would be in my honorable mention type of area. But my number 2 location has to go to Dragon Roost Island because Rutos, and maybe we could even unlock Medley here actually. And it's gotta go at number 2 because it's just freaking awesome. My favorite location, I guess, maybe in the Zelda series, and that's not including any dungeons or temples because there's at least 1 or maybe 2 more locations in the series that I enjoy more than Dragon Roost Island. But it's a very lovely, beautiful location, like I've said before, and I think it would really just be a nice, calm sort of atmosphere to complement all of these other dark stages that I've been talking about. But yes, Dragon Roost Island as my number 2. I just really love the stage. Maybe even mix in Dragon Roost Cavern in here as well, because I just think Dragon Roost is freaking awesome. Oh! And finally, my number 1 location that I want to see in Hyrule Warriors is the Snow Peak Ruins from Twilight Princess. This is my favorite dungeon in the entire series. This spot used to actually belong to Arbiter's Grounds and Ancient Cistern, because they were both at my number 1 for a while. But Snow Peak Ruins is absolutely freaking awesome. After like replaying Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, I realized that, I really love Snow Peak Ruins. A little bit more than Ancient Cistern. It's not a huge margin or anything, but Snow Peak Ruins was just a very creative, unique dungeon. And there's something else that I thought was cool about this, in that it's an ice area. It's a snow area. I haven't put anything like this on my list yet. I have water and things like that, but I'm like, okay, we need a really nice ice area. And what better place to go than Snow Peak Ruins, the most iconic ice area in the Zelda series, in my opinion. This would be a really cool location to maybe unlock Ashy from the Resistance and Twilight Princess. And as I said, it's just a really cool location because it's not really just a temple, it's a house of these 2 Yetis. And it's just got this really cool atmosphere. I think that Dynasty Warriors could turn this into a really awesome looking location. I've played One Piece Pirate Warriors, and there were some locations I was like, oh, I'm not really sure how to do this, but then they put it in the game, I'm like, oh, this is really freaking cool. So I think they could do this with Snow Peak Ruins, and I actually could see a little bit of how this would look in my head. So I really want to see this. Snow Peak Ruins. Put it in the game. I want to play in it. It's really the perfect kind of choice if you want to include an ice area in the game, which I think they totally should try to include, like a little bit of diversity with ice, water, um, fire, all that stuff. So yes, Snow Peak Ruins from Twilight Princess comes in at my #1 location for Hyrule Warriors. And there we have it. That's my top 10 locations that I want to see in Hyrule Warriors. If you think there's some locations that maybe I missed out on, maybe some that I even mentioned that you think would actually fit in here over another one, feel free to comment, give your own ideas, maybe even your own top 10s for what locations that you would like to see in this game, because I really do like to hear other people's opinions. Even though I'm kind of a stubborn, biased person, so most of the time I'm going to be like, oh, I really love my list, and you can't change my list. But I still love to see other people's ideas because sometimes, even if I'm not going to change my top 10 list, I will be looking at your list and I'm like, oh, that's a really cool location. How come I didn't think of that? So, yeah, include your own top 10 lists. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. I really would like for people to watch my videos more and maybe leave me some comments because I really just like to hear some feedback on how I'm doing my own videos. So, yeah, again, these are my top 10 locations from Hyrule Warriors. I hope you enjoyed this video. And next up will be my top 10 characters from Hyrule Warriors, which will be kind of made in the same type of style. So stick around and watch that too. And thank you for watching.